Politics is the art of looking for trouble, finding it everywhere, diagnosing it incorrectly, and applying the wrong remedy. Groucho Marx. All right, good morning. Welcome to another episode of the Liberty Dad podcast, a discussion on politics and culture. I'm your host, DL, America's most objective libertarian. Tuning in live. Thank you so much for giving me your time so early. All right, folks, we are back at it again. Now, normally I would do a bill review on Mondays. Mondays are my bill review day, right? However, we're going to shake things up a little bit today. And we have a guest. We're going to be talking to a candidate out of Florida's 6th district. Today, we are going to be talking with Aaron Baker. He is down below me, actually. And I don't mean like kind of physically because I am in the district above him. So he's in the district right below me here in Florida. So I'm going to bring him on and we're going to have a chit chat about what he's up to, what his plans are, and, just introduce you to the candidate if you're not yet familiar with him. So let's go ahead and bring in Aaron. All right, good sir. How are you? You might have to hit that mute button.
Yeah, I'm trying.
All right, there it is.
There we go. There we go.
All right, good sir. How are you?
Good morning. Good Monday morning. Delighted to be here.
All right, so let's dive right in. So you're running for Florida's 6th district. What motivated you to run? Now, this is the second time you're running, right?
Yes, so I ran in the special election back in January in the primary. For those that are unaware, after Congressman Waltz was nominated to be National Security Advisor, that left Florida's 6th Congressional District open, to which Mr. Randy Fine was the chosen candidate, and had a group of Republicans approach me and say, Aaron, we need someone with moral clarity to run for this seat. We don't agree with some of the things that Mr. Fine has said in the past. We don't agree with the ethics complaints that he has. And at that time, he was in the state legislature and still had open ethics complaints, and still has open court cases and court ordered anger management. So we knew some of this stuff in the past that's happened, and we knew that we needed an alternative to that. So what's happened is Mr. Fine's gone to Washington, and it's a exact repeat of what happened in the state. Very outspoken, very doesn't mind to make enemies with everyone, and that's really not. You live in the 5th district. I live in the 6th. That's really doesn't fit our area very well. I mean, we have a very both regions are very tied together. Very Christian values, very laid back, older demographic, and just doesn't serve us very well to be the loudest person in the room, so to speak.
Right.
That's not us. I mean, we have 60 miles of coast in the 6th Congressional District from Daytona Beach all the way up to St. Augustine Shores. And, this is the area that I grew up on. Spent all my summers, all my school breaks, either somewhere between Daytona Beach and St. Augustine, just on the water.
Right.
So I just think that we deserve a little better down here.
Okay. All right. So you're running against Randy Fine. Now, the special election, those are always tricky because that's going to be the people that are just like super duper hardcore. So you weren't able to secure the primary then. So what have you learned or what did you learn from that first go around that's going to make you come back and be far stronger this go around?
So I knew I needed one of two things. I either needed time or I needed money. So
Hmm.
this time I have time and I
Hmm.
have a little bit of money. Uh,
Okay.
in the special election, it was announced in December. And so basically, you had um, Christmas and New Year's in there. You're not
Mhm.
going to call anybody the week before Christmas, or between Christmas and New Year's. So
Mhm.
that really left all the campaigning to between January 1st and January 28th. So
Mhm.
you had less than 4 weeks to try to get your name out there and to secure, a congressional primary. Uh,
Mhm.
the main thing that I learned is once your message gets out there, it is a viable message because my cost per vote in the primary was $6, which is very, you know, I can do that. And
Mhm.
Mr. Fine's cost per vote was over $100 per vote in the uh, special election primary. So,
Okay.
I mean, he was unknown. I was unknown. The difference was he had millions of dollars to send out the bright, shiny mailers that we all get in our mailbox.
Mhm.
And, that made the difference. I can go to every event in the world, but there's only so many events that you can go to. For,
Right.
for example, during the special election, I went to 68 different events, whether that's clubs, the Republican Executive Committee,
Mhm.
uh, Christmas parties, Trump clubs, New Year's parties, 68 different events, and I crossed paths with Mr. Fine
Mhm.
on three different occasions. So it's really, take your pick. Do you want someone that has created a flyover district,
Mhm.
or do you want somebody that's actually on the ground here every single day? I mean, I live
Right.
here, I work here, my office is here. Uh, Friday I was in Flagler Beach, Saturday Palm Coast, yesterday Daytona. Uh,
Mhm.
Today I'll be in St. Augustine. So um, I'm all over the district. It's just a matter of time of being able to connect with people like yourself, where you can, have different podcasts and where you can get your name out.
Gotcha. So, people wanted you to run against Randy Fine, and you said you met him. What was he like in person? Do you recall? Is he as bombastic and in my as far as I'm gonna say it, psycho in person as he comes across online?
So the first time I
And
met,
you can feel free to rephrase that however you want.
so the first time I met Mr. Fine was in Ormond Beach, and I grew up. I was born in Lakeland, but I grew up in Western Kentucky, and then came back here. Uh, I, I was raised with, I guess, what you call Midwest values,
Mhm.
where you walk up to somebody and you shake their hand, and you may not agree on everything,
Mhm.
but that's that's the world that I grew up in. That's not Mr. Fine at all. The first time he walked in the door in Ormond Beach at the Republican Club, I walked up and introduced myself, Mr. Fine. I'm Aaron Baker, and he looked at me like I was from a different planet. And I knew exactly who he was because I had spoken to him the day before that. And even when I filed my paperwork in Tallahassee, he had called me on the phone telling me that I needed to drop out of the race, and then
Mm.
had other elected officials call me and tell me that I needed to drop out of the race, which I didn't, of course. Uh, but very, very strange character. And then the second time we met was in Flagler County at the Republican Executive Committee. And it, same thing, I walked up to him, to shake your hand. And he looked me straight in the eye and he said, "Am I supposed to know you?"
Mm.
And I mean, just bizarre behavior. So
Right.
it's like if he doesn't consider that you're on the same level, then he won't even give you the time of day.
Right. Right. Okay.
So, just very, very odd character.
Did, did you how did you respond to that? Were you like, Well, you should
Uh,
always know people that are running against you, or hey, it's wise to know some of your constituents, or hey, you're an ass. Never mind.
no, so in Flagler, I literally turned around and I said, "Let's try this again." And I walked about 5 feet away. I turned around and walked back up to him, and I said, "Mr. Fine, I'm Aaron Baker. Nice to meet you again."
Right.
And then, he had nothing to say at that point.
Right. Okay. So, and just so you know, my audience, as well as I, or as well as me, we are not Randy Fine fans by any stretch of the imagination. So, Joe Hanush asked, he said, on a scale of 1 to 10, would you give Randy Fine a 0 or a -1?
Well, the one thing that I hear about, or from the people on the ground here in this district, is they simply just want someone that will represent them. You don't have to be here all the time, but you have to, you know act like you care.
Hmm.
So, people on the ground that I talk to feel like we're at a point right now where it's just a total embarrassment. So,
Right.
to that point, I think I'd have to give him a -1, because I
Okay.
think he's actually doing more harm than good right now.
It's funny. I actually think so. I got another question in the chat for you about Randy Fine. I'm sorry, not about Rand, but another question in the chat that we'll get to. But before that, he comes across very aggressive online,
Mhm.
and he has said things publicly, like on video. Like there's video of him berating people that have come to speak. Um, and like you just mentioned, you said, "Hey, when you meet him, he kind of acts like, 'Who are you? Why should I be talking to you?'" You kind of like any like he was talking like I think there was trying to remember, there was a tweet, I think, where he was talking about potentially moving to Washington. Um, he seems to be really obsessed with with dealings with Israel, as opposed to his constituents. It almost seems like he's in Congress for national matters, not his, for the represent, to be a representative for the constituents of the sixth district. That's the impression that I get, just in general, just everything. So how would you be different?
How would I be different?
Yes.
I know what's going on here in the sixth congressional district.
Mhm,
I understand the flooding. I understand the infrastructure needs.
mhm,
Uh, I understand Volusia County is not an engineered beach. Congressman Waltz was working on legislation for the Army Corps of Engineers to be able to do a study
mhm,
to help the beaches in Volusia County. That's something that has to be done. I haven't heard a peep out of Representative Fine that says, okay, we're going to do X, Y, and Z
mhm.
for the community. You don't hear anything about any local issues. Yesterday, I'm over in Daytona Beach, and Daytona Beach has gotten a lot better, but there's still damage from the hurricane from 2.5 years ago. Uh,
Right.
these things need to be addressed. People ask, if you're elected to Congress, what's the first trip you would take? And
Mm,
somebody made a very good point the other day. Even the socialist candidate in New York City answered the question correctly. He
right.
said, "What the hell are you people talking about? I would go back to New York City. That's
Right.
exactly the same. I would go to Daytona Beach. I would sit down with the mayor and I would say, okay, we have homeless people in Daytona Beach.
Mhm.
How do we get these people off the street? How do we make this the Daytona Beach that I remember from the 1980s, the 1990s, where I mean, you wanted to take your family to Daytona Beach.
Right.
Yesterday, I'm at the end of the pier. There's 10,000 people on the beach. It's great, but at the same time, you still see the infrastructure that needs to be taken care of.
Mhm.
I mean, is it too much to ask for somebody to pay attention to what's going on in your actual district? No, it's not too much to ask. And we do
Right.
deserve better and we can have better. So, main difference between me and him, If you need something and you live in the 6th Congressional District, you would be able to pick up the phone and call me at a moment's notice. And I
Right.
don't care if it's 2 o'clock in the morning, I don't care if it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon. If there's anything that I can do, I'll be there for the 6th Congressional District.
Got it. Hey, by the way, just a little side note here. Your camera is a little bit off. Could you move yourself, the camera, maybe to your right? I believe. I think that's there we go. Get you more centered. Sorry about that. I
There.
should I should have mentioned that earlier. I apologize. Okay, much better. All right. So here's the first question from Toffee. Toffee. Goodness gracious. Um, Tommy, the coffee addict. Clearly, I haven't had enough coffee today. He says, does he feel, meaning you, okay with putting people in cages for plants, cannabis? Also, although I used to be a Republican, I have started to not trust them on social issues like immigration. So, how would you answer those two things? And I know that cannabis, for some reason, over the weekend, that became a huge talking point on social media. I think presumably because Trump was talking about removing it from its place in the current schedule. I think Schedule 1, I think down to Schedule 3, but I could be incorrect
Correct.
on that.
That's correct.
So what is your position on cannabis? And then also kind of give us your perspective on immigration.
Immigration. So the immigration side's a little easier than the cannabis side. So let's do immigration first. Um, Putting people in cages is the biggest misnomer ever.
Mhm,
Okay, it, the number one deporter in chief was not President Trump. The number one deporter in chief was Barack Obama. He deported more people when he was president than any other president. It's This is not a Republican Democrat issue. It's been made that, oh, Republicans are these horrible people,
mhm,
but a lot of the pictures that you saw during the first Trump administration were actually things that happened under the Obama administration. So, if you're here illegally and you've been picked up for some crime, then you're going to be deported. Now, you can self deport, and the government will actually pay for your plane ticket
mhm,
and your travel expenses back home. That would be the easiest thing to do. So, if you know that you're here and you've committed a crime, you're taking a chance every day by walking around. And if you get picked up by Customs and Border Patrol or by immigration enforcement,
mhm.
then that's what's going to happen. It's the same thing as me saying, well, you know, if I want to have 6 drinks at the bar and then drive home and I get stopped, well, what are they going to do? They're going to take me to jail. They're going
Mhm.
to put me in a cage, however you want to phrase it, because I broke the law. This isn't a Republican Democrat issue. This is law versus not law. And
Okay.
uh, I mean, you can disagree with the law being enforced, but that's the law that's on the books right now. If you want to change it, then we can have a discussion about changing the law, but that's the law that's on the books right now. I mean, the federal government, the number one goal of the federal government should be to protect the safety of the citizens.
Okay.
That's it. So how do
So
we
would you
protect the safety?
do you support the law as is, or would you support changing it?
I don't have any problem with the law as is.
Okay.
I mean, if someone has tweaks that they suggest, I've said all along, I'm more than happy to listen to it. But at this exact point in time, I don't have anything that says, okay, this needs to be tweaked, this needs to be tweaked. People have a problem with alligator Alcatraz. Okay, would you rather someone be kept in an older detention facility
Mhm.
in worse conditions? I can guarantee you that here in Florida, we're not going to let anything bad happen to anyone,
Okay.
regardless of immigration status. If you are in alligator Alcatraz, they're going to make sure that you have air conditioning, that you have water, that you have food.
Mhm.
It's you know, it's not the end of the world. I mean, it's the law versus not the law.
Okay. So it sounds like, just before we move on to the other portion of that comment, so just to make sure that I'm clear and the audience is clear, by the way, my audience is largely libertarian. Um, You support the alligator Alcatraz as is, like you're not taking any issue with it. That's what you just tell me if I'm correct or not. You support deportations and the law as it currently is, where we say, hey, if you're here legally, we will deport you, even if the only crime you've committed is coming here illegally or overstaying your visa. You're in support of all of those.
I think that there, I wouldn't mind to see tweaks in some areas,
Mhm.
um, but I mean, that's really a huge national issue. I don't. I mean, what are you going to change? You're going to say that if somebody broke the law that they're not here illegally? That doesn't make sense. Um,
So for libertarians, it varies a little bit. You have some that are completely wide open borders. You actually have some that are very closed borders, and then you have some that are in between. So we're kind of a little bit all over the map. But ultimately, I was just trying to get an idea of where you stand on this particular issue. What? So let's I'll ask you one more question on the immigration thing, and then we'll move back to the other topic.
sure.
So, what has been the vibe that you're hearing from residents within your district on these matters, on the matters of immigration? When you talk to people, because at the end of the day, whether I like your answers or not, number one, you're not representing me, right? So, what are the people that you would be representing? What is their feeling?
100% correct. It's not about X, Y, Z, what this person feels. You're representing the collective of the 6th Congressional District. I see more alligator Alcatraz T-shirts here than probably any place that I travel to. And I travel up north every once in a while. I have family up there. I don't see any of that up north. So I can tell you from an on the ground point of view that the majority of constituents in the 6th Congressional District support alligator Alcatraz. And most of them would even buy a t shirt.
Okay. All right. And then just out of just to throw this out there, I know I said the last question, last my question. I promise. Um, Violent crimes only, maybe asked Joe Hanush. So he is in, I believe, Ormond Beach. And his question basically is saying, would you support a tweak that moves and says we're going to primarily focus on deporting people if you've committed a violent crime, and then other crimes not we wouldn't. Would you support that change?
Well, number one thing is that we have a secure border.
Okay.
Now we know we have a secure border. Okay. So where the big question is, where do we go from here? Do we do
Okay.
violent crimes? Do we do nonviolent crimes? Do we do President Trump said himself, we're going to start with violent criminals.
Okay.
That's words out of the president's mouth.
Sure.
So,
But for you, if a
if they're
change came, would you support it? If somebody put forward in Congress, because you would be a Congress member. If
sure,
a Congress member said, "Hey, I'm gonna put forward, I'm gonna sponsor this legislation that changes our immigration policy to we're only going to worry about deporting violent criminals," would that be something you would support?
it'd be something that I would certainly look at.
Okay.
I would want to know how the constituents in the 6th Congressional District feel. I mean, my plan would be to have town halls to actually speak to the constituents back like Governor DeSantis did when this was his district
Hmm.
and get the feel of the people. It's not just my opinion that matters.
Okay.
It's the opinion of the people here. So if you actually have town halls and you connect with the people here, you're going to have a much better sense of what's going on here. If
Okay. Sounds good.
if it's something that the people support, and I'm in Ormond Beach quite a bit. I was there last Saturday. Um, if someone says if the if there's 200 people in the room and 150 of them say, you know, as Republicans, because they're mostly Republican clubs,
Hmm.
um, that we want to see tweaks. Absolutely, I'm open to I'm open to it.
Okay.
I'm not so close minded that it's just my opinion that matters. It's not my opinion that matters. You represent the people here.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Okay, so and I as a a podcast guy, somebody that pays attention to all this stuff. When it comes to politicians, I realize that it may be difficult to hear something other than absolutely, I would totally support that. Being a libertarian, but I would look at it. So that's fair. And I keep promising that will be the last question. So let's move on to the cannabis. Where do you stand on cannabis, putting people in cages? Should we go back to criminalizing it everywhere? What's your perspective?
I like the system that we have set up in Florida. The system that we have set up in Florida is um, that you can have a medical marijuana card.
Hmm.
I support that 100%. I didn't support Amendment 3 during the last election because Amendment 3 didn't give you the freedom to grow your own. It took all of the marijuana and moved it to a corporate side. I mean, there's a reason that um, True Leaf and Big Weed spent $100 million plus trying to get this ballot initiative passed
Hmm.
because it's they're not doing that for your or my freedom. They're doing that for corporate profits. So that's what I have a problem with is the corporate profit side. Now, if someone wants to introduce legislation um, that says that you can grow your own, come
Hmm.
up with a reasonable number of plants. You don't need 10,000, but at the same time, you're probably going to. I've spoken to people, and you're probably going to need 20 or 25 for personal use. Um, I don't have a problem with that. I mean,
Okay.
we should have the freedom as individuals to do just that.
Okay. So, it sounds like you would support legislation that would open up freedom more so than it is currently, but perhaps not as much as, say, libertarians like myself would say. It needs to be all the way. I can have as many plants as I want. I can make whatever I want. I can sell it to whomever I want, which would be the libertarian position. And I get it, folks. Just as we're to be clear, I'm a libertarian. Aaron is a Republican. We are not necessarily going to agree, and that's okay. We're just trying to flesh out and see where you stand, Aaron, kind of compared to me, if you will, and also compared to any of the people that you're running against. So, okay, fair enough. Uh,
So
Go
to
ahead.
to sum up, I support personal freedom.
Okay, fair enough.
That's
Fair.
it.
No, I'll take it. And it's hard because as a libertarian, I naturally am inclined to argue and go, well, what about this? But I have to also remember, you are a Republican. You have, you know, values and ideas and views that are not necessarily going to be mine. Otherwise, you would be like, I'm a libertarian, right? So, it's a challenge to kind of balance those two, but that's fair. All right.
Keep in mind,
And go
this
ahead.
is a Trump plus 30 district.
Right.
Okay. So to tell you how deep red this district is, Trump plus 30. I mean, we have to listen to the people that live here also. So
Right.
we're approaching most issues from a Republican point of view. But if
Mhm.
there are libertarian issues and there are Democratic issues or independent issues, I will listen.
Fair. That sounds, as far as a politician is concerned, if we could get them to start listening, that would be a huge leap forward. Right? And I don't
That's
mean
crazy.
listen while they're on the campaign trail, right?
Right.
Everybody will do that. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm talking about once they get elected, once it comes down to the wire, when there's actual votes to be made, that's when I wanna see listening. It sounds like you are willing to at least hear out ideas and balance them with what the voters in your district, the people you would be representing, want. That's what I'm hearing. Am I correct?
100%.
Alright, fair enough.
It may not be always my personal opinion.
Mhm,
I mean, there are issues. Me personally,
mhm.
I don't like the smell of marijuana. So
Right,
personally, I'm against it. But I know 60 plus percent of the constituents here support some legalization.
right.
They
Alright,
support more freedom.
good, good.
We
I'm
should
I'm
all
always
support
down
more
for it.
freedom. This is not rocket science.
Absolutely. And, just to kinda, this may sound like a not the best comment, but it actually is kind of a compliment in a sense. Tommy, the coffee addict, says, "About as good of an answer as I can expect, from a Republican." And again, mind you, my audience is largely libertarian, And, we're a bit cantankerous sometimes. So
Sure.
if you can get that kind of an answer from us, you're doing pretty good. So, all right. For the constituents that you would be representing, what are the top three issues that you are hearing or have heard from them from people in your district that you would need to focus on if you won and went to Congress?
It depends on what portion of the district you're in, because
Okay.
again, we go from seaside, literally
Hmm.
Daytona Beach, St. Augustine, to the villages. So much different issues in the villages than on the beach side. But
Yep.
flooding. If you're in Flagler County, if you know that if it rains more than 2 inches, Flagler Estates floods. Flooding infrastructure.
Hmm.
That's number one. Number two, if you go to any county council meeting, 80% of the conversation is flooding infrastructure. Development.
Hmm.
There's not a lot that you can do on the federal level about development. Okay.
Okay.
But on the federal level, you can sure as heck make sure that the infrastructure is provided. There is
Okay.
there is funding that needs to be pointed this direction.
Okay. So you would look for funding to help improve the infrastructure in some way.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And I also grew up on a pretty good sized farm. We had 160 acres growing up. Um, so I would also like to look at the agriculture portion, because
Mhm.
we are losing, from when I grew up, I mean, I remember orange trees everywhere,
Mhm.
even up this far in Lake County where I am. All of that industry is gone. Now they're coming up with some uh, University of Florida has been studying this for quite a while. Um, Donaldson oranges,
Okay.
where they're immune to greening, are immune to some of the viruses that are coming over. So
Okay.
there are also agriculture things that we can do on the agriculture side. You just need to be aware of the issues
Mhm.
and be willing to listen, and make sure that if it's something that you have the ability to support, that you're supporting it.
Right.
Again, back to, it's not rocket science. The other major thing that I hear on the ground is still the economy. Washington can tell us how good the economy is, but that's not the case on the ground. I mean, where I live in Lake County, there's a
Mhm.
Circle K on this corner and there's a Circle K directly diagonal catty corner. And when I stop at my little Circle K, I'm a small business owner, so I can pull out my business card and I can fill up my gas tank. But it kills me when the person in front of me got $4 worth of gas, $5 worth of gas, $7, $10 worth of gas. Those are hardworking people that are trying to get back and forth to work every single day. And no one, I mean, it's the forgotten middle class. We put such a squeeze on the middle class day after day after day. We can talk about all these different things and how good the economy is, but people still have economic concerns. I see it when I go to Sam's Club. I mean, I live on a budget also. I don't have unlimited money. Uh, what I used to be able to buy at Sam's Club for $150 is now $300. I mean, the economy still has the biggest impact, and people like Mr. Fine could give two shits less, for lack of a better term.
Sure.
It's
So what
all
would
about
you do? What
them.
would you support? What kind of legislation would you support to address that?
Well, Congress needs to start working on codifying some of these executive orders. Drill, 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 as
Okay.
President Trump says, drill, baby, drill. For us Floridians,
Mhm.
we both know that we have huge power rate increases coming up.
Mhm.
I support the development of industry here in central and north central Florida. We need more power plants. We need nuclear power plants. I mean, it takes 20 years to get the permits approved to build a nuclear power plant. Do we really think that solar is going to save us? I mean, solar is the least effective energy option out there.
Mhm.
It costs more upfront, and it's not going to last 20 years, and then we're going to be replacing all of that infrastructure again, and it's going to be on the backs of the consumers. So how do we mitigate that? We need to start building nuclear power plants in the United States. That is the number one legislative issue that I would do, because that will help Floridians on a day-to-day basis.
Mhm.
We need to attract industry here. I was up in Palm Coast last Tuesday or Wednesday at the mayor's town hall.
Mhm.
One of the kids stood up and he said, "What am I supposed to do after I get out of school? There's no major industry here. There's no, huge business here that is going to keep me here after I get out of school." And I said, "Okay, well, how do we do that? We need a congressman that will sit down across the table from business leaders, from industry leaders, and say, okay, you know, if you'll come to the 6th district, because we're just north of the Space Coast,
Mhm.
and that happens to be where Mr. Fine lives, is Space Coast. Um, for those of you that don't know, he doesn't even live here. Um, but there is so much opportunity for us to help future generations also. We need business here. We need industry here. I would love to build, even 2 nuclear power plants in Florida will help Floridians for the next generation to come.
Mm.
All the supporting industry behind that would be huge for this area.
I gotcha. So Joe is asking on the topic of nuclear. He says, "You support legislation for to reduce the time it takes to build a nuclear power plant." So, in other words, would you support legislation that would take it from 20 years down to something else?
Yes,
Okay,
Floridians can't wait 20 years. I mean, in 20 years, we're going to be paying $1 bajillion for electric. We're all going to be broke.
got it. Okay.
We, we need help now.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And we don't have to worry about the details. Like we're not nuclear engineers. Maybe I
Correct.
can bring on my friend Steve. He worked on a sub in the nuke area. Um, okay, so let's talk about some of these issues that are on your website. Here's one that's near and dear to libertarian hearts. Um, gun rights, gun safety. Tell me where you are with guns. I saw something interesting on social media. I'll ask you about it in a moment, but tell me your perspective.
I love guns.
All right.
I love the Second Amendment. For those that don't know, my brother's a federally licensed firearm dealer.
Hmm.
So we go out to the range together. I love it. Um, I don't believe that the Second Amendment is for hunting and fishing. I
Hmm.
believe the Second Amendment exists to protect us from a tyrannical government. And
Okay.
I posted probably the best picture of that yesterday, where when I lived up north, they actually at that point issued vaccine ID cards, and you had to have that vaccine ID card in order to travel.
Right.
I mean, talk about tyrannical overreach of government.
Right.
I mean, that's it, first, second, and third. I absolutely love my birthplace here, Florida,
Mhm.
because we have it right here. We really do. Uh,
Okay.
and it scares me a little bit to see who the next governor might be, because I think that we we're pointed in the right direction right now. And anytime there's a change in administration, I think anybody can get a little scared.
I gotcha. So now some of your answers have not been as libertarian as libertarians would like. However, let me read this because you posted this, I believe, yesterday. Yes, yesterday. So you reposted a video of Ron Paul discussing legislation, and you said, "I'm a huge supporter of our Second Amendment. I love freedom. I love liberty. I love this great nation. However, this is one regulation I would happily support. May God bless you and your family on this day of rest." So tell the audience what legislation you would happily support when it comes to guns?
That's the easiest question ever. You have all these federal bureaucrats running around. Let's take example the IRS. The
Mhm,
IRS has more weapons than any civil service person should ever need.
mhm.
Take their guns away. Why do all of these federal agencies need to come armed looking for American citizens? That's bizarre to me.
Right.
I mean, that's crazy. I don't support arming these federal civil service officers.
All right.
Their
Sounds
guns
fair.
away.
Right. Right. No, absolutely. Okay. So, let me ask you then, um, when it comes to, say, foreign policy, and this is where we may disagree, and that's okay. Where are you with foreign policy?
Well, I can tell you one thing. We need to keep American money in America.
Okay.
We need to help the people here. I need to be able to help build a nuclear power plant. That doesn't happen for free. I need to be able to drill, baby, drill. That
Okay.
doesn't happen for free. I want American money to take care of Americans first, second,
Mhm.
third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, tenth. I want America to be the strongest shining beacon that we can possibly make it. And that's not the policy that we have right now. We're helping people all over the world for God knows what. Shrimp on treadmills. Um, we're funding offensive and defensive weapons in the Middle East. I don't support. I First of all, I don't support giving weapons to anyone.
Okay.
We can sell defensive weapons, but I don't support giving offensive weapons to anyone, whether that's Ukraine, whether that's Israel, whether that's Great Britain. No offensive weapons. If the offensive weapons need to be used, then we need to do exactly what we did in Iran. We'll fly our B 2s literally halfway around the world, and we'll do what we think needs to be done, and that's it. No offensive weapons. I don't care who you are, but
Okay.
this endless supply of foreign aid, of where we have just completely devalued our currency,
Mhm.
and that's a whole. I mean, we could talk about that for 10 years. Uh, is ludicrous. We have people on the ground here in Florida that need help.
Mhm.
We have people talking about property taxes here. It's not a federal issue, it's a state issue. I completely understand that.
Mhm.
But why don't we help some of the people here?
Gotcha. So, if I heard you correctly, you do not support, further assistance to Ukraine. Is that correct?
We can sell them defensive
Okay.
weapons.
So sell them, but not give them, and not give them supplies, not give them any kind of foreign aid of any kind, but you would just you limit it to selling, correct?
Limits it to selling.
Okay. Same for the Middle East?
Same for the Middle East, yes.
Okay. And then, if I heard you right, you said you do support some actions occasionally, such as the bombing that, run that we did in Iran.
Yes.
Okay.
That we did.
Okay.
That we did. I'm not happy about that though, because I think that the United States was backed into a corner where we had to do it, and I don't agree with that at all.
Okay.
I think that there should have been. Um, I think they should have come to us ahead of time and said, hey, X, Y, Z, and that's not what happened, and I'm not happy about that at all.
Okay. Let's see what else you got on here. Here's one that is kind of dear to my heart: criminal injustice and law enforcement. So I have argued that in the state of Florida, we are becoming more of a police state because I see a lot of legislation that I have reviewed that is beneficial, to the police in ways that I don't think that it should be. Where do you stand on? And I know we're all going to say like, oh, we support the police in general because they're our brothers and sisters and whatever. But where do you stand on law enforcement? Is it where it should be? Have we gone too far? What's your perspective?
I think it's very easy to say. Um, you can come up with 27 different scenarios
Mhm.
of do you support this, do you support this, and you can microanalyze all of it. At the end of the day, I support one thing, and that's freedom.
Okay. All right. And then, so in terms of the police, what does that mean?
Well, give me an example of where you of legislation that you don't agree with.
So there was a I don't remember the number or the title exactly,
Okay.
but there was legislation that said, "Hey, if you are closer than 25 feet of an officer and you're trying to record them, they can basically order you to back up, and then they can also arrest you." So, do you agree with that in part, in full? That was one of the legislation that I recall.
25 feet seems absolutely ridiculous.
Okay.
Um, I mean, 25. I think that there's probably a much more practical number there.
Okay.
If you're standing on the sidewalk, and let's say you're 5 feet away, you might be 2 feet away, you might be 8 feet away. If you're standing on the sidewalk and you're on a public access and you're recording an officer, you have the constitutional right to do that. I mean,
Right.
this has been challenged many times. I don't know who came up with 25 feet. That seems absolutely just crazy to me.
Because from my perspective, that basically means a 50-foot diameter. Right, and I'm like, that's an awful lot to try to arrest somebody. I mean, when was the last time we watched an arrest where they're rolling and fighting them, for 50, within a 50-foot span? That just seems crazy to me. So I agree with you on that. Let's see, another piece of legislation was, they voted to basically reduce citizen review boards. Now the citizen review boards did not have any power. They basically had the power of public opinion for the
Mhm.
most part, but they didn't have any. They weren't. It's not like they could review something that an officer did, and then the officer would necessarily get in trouble. As far as I was aware, is the sheriff's office could say, "Yeah, we're taking your review into consideration, and we disagree." So, do you support legislation that basically neutered the citizen review boards?
Well, so here's the easiest answer to that ever is if you have a congressman that actually has town halls
Mhm,
and listens to the constituents. If the constituents have a concern, it is your obligation as their representative to address it. So if you have six citizens stand up at a town hall and they say this needs to be addressed,
mhm.
then absolutely,
Gotcha.
100%.
Okay, and by the way, I do realize those are state issues and you are actually running for Congress, but we're just trying to get a feel for where you stand on these particular issues.
But let me give you an example. So I was up in Palm Coast on Saturday,
Mhm,
and they're doing some rezoning up there.
mhm,
That's a city specific issue,
mhm,
but it's something that if you have a congressman that knows what's going on the ground,
mhm,
you can you're using your voice for the betterment of the community.
mhm,
So it may be a state issue, it may be a local issue, but it's your voice and that the people know that you have their back.
mhm.
And that's not what we have in Congress right now.
Gotcha. On the note of criminal injustice and law enforcement, I'm reading from your site here. It says, "I will continue to advocate for HR 9745, the quote life-saving gear for police act, end quote, which provides state and local law enforcement with military surplus equipment to do their jobs." Tell me a little bit about that because it seems to me that they have more than enough equipment to do their jobs. And speaking of legislation, here in Florida, they did pass legislation that said if the police go and say, "Hey, we'd like to increase in our budget," and they're told no, number one, the the state could potentially receive a request to review it, and then I believe nullify it. But then also that opens up the city for liability. So it seems to me that's already been covered by the state and is no longer necessary, if you could ever say it was necessary, at the federal level. So tell me about your support for the Life Saving Gear for Police Act.
Okay, so Life Saving Gear for Police Act was actually legislation written by Congressman Waltz from the
Okay.
sixth congressional district.
Okay.
Um, During the Biden administration, what happened was President Biden signed an executive order that said
Mhm.
police and firefighters, any first responders, could no longer purchase military surplus equipment, whether that's in anything. They couldn't purchase anything. So Congressman Waltz went back and wrote legislation, Life Saving Gear for Police Act,
Hmm.
that said, we're going to make this a law. And that's what I mean by codifying executive orders into law.
Hmm.
President Trump fixed it day one with an executive order undoing Biden's executive order. But how do we fix this endless loop of government overreach,
Hmm.
personal freedom of
Right.
executive order, executive order, executive order? We make it a law. That is the perfect example of making something a law. So we may disagree on, saying, okay, police have enough, but we're talking about forever. We're talking about at some point, equipment has to get refreshed.
Okay.
That needs to happen. So if the military that spends $1 bajillion on whatever and now has 12 leftover Jeeps, we're not talking about a tank rolling down Daytona Beach. We're talking about practical equipment for firefighters, for first responders, for police officers.
Okay.
I mean that's what we're talking about, and that's kind of the biggest example of common sense legislation.
Okay. All right, so just to reiterate, make sure that I understand, you're saying, like, if a city has an MRAP, which, seems to be me to be pretty excessive, um, that's not what you envision as part of supporting, equipment for first responders. You're saying, "Hey, you might need a new squad car. You might need this," things that most people would say, "Yeah, you absolutely have to have that. No squad car, you can't get to where you need to go." You probably need a gun. You probably need whatever, the simple stuff, but you're excluding from your perspective, the more heavy duty stuff that we see for, like, MRAPs and stuff like that. Is that correct?
You're 100% correct.
Okay.
What I'm saying is common sense. It's to my point. You don't need a tank. You don't need a cannon. Uh,
Right.
you have to look at what the police actually need and just use common sense. But it can't be 100% one way or 100% the other way of where Biden completely cut it off.
Mhm.
I mean, how does that help? You can't completely cut something off.
Got it. Okay. Um, we're getting near the end of our time. So what have we missed out that constituents, anybody watching, really needs to hear from you? Or maybe your final pitch or whatever, just kind of close us out on the final thing that they need to walk away with.
I will have your back.
Okay,
If you want me to represent you in Congress from day one, I will have your back. I will support freedom.
got it. And then we can expect, if you are elected, town halls, right,
Absolutely.
on the regular, which is interesting because for libertarians, he's also a Republican, but he is pretty libertarian up there in Michigan. Um, I'm seeing his face now. Justin Amash. He is known to also do regular town halls, so I know that libertarians can appreciate that, especially if they want to come and yell at you, which we have a tendency to do.
And that's fine. I mean, I don't have a problem with that. Our current congressman, he gets his feelings hurt very easily. And,
Mhm.
if you say something that he doesn't agree with, he'll simply just block you. And, I have to call him out all the time. I'm like, okay, you blocked my campaign volunteer that I know who
Mhm.
this person is. I know he's
Right,
a campaign volunteer because he helped me on the last campaign, sending out
right.
text messages and making phone calls. If you get your feelings hurt easily, this is not the business for you. I mean, you have to be able to listen to the people here. You have to be able to listen. You have to be able to represent the people here.
Mhm,
I understand we have a congressman that thinks that this congressional district is 6,500 miles from where it is.
mhm.
That's not the case. This congressional district runs from Daytona Beach to the Villages, almost uh, a square, over to St. Augustine. It's this. We need somebody that loves this area, somebody that appreciates the history. This
Mhm.
is St. Augustine is the oldest city in the United States. You look at yesterday, the list came out of the most beautiful college campuses in the United States. Number one is Flagler College in St. Augustine.
Right.
We have so much of a treasured history here. We need to appreciate it, and we need to build on it, and we need to give our next generation business and industry here to be able to make a brighter future for themselves.
Gotcha.
This is simple. We need to respect the people here.
Sounds good to me. That Liberty lady points out, she says, my rep does no town halls. John Rutherford, we'll leave the emoji out, is a stock trader instead of a rep. How does Aaron feel about stock trading as a representative of the people? You going to be
I
trading
have
stocks to get millions?
I've spoken about this. I don't believe that any member of Congress should be allowed to trade stock.
Okay. Sounds
And
good.
I support term limits day one. I signed the term limit pledge, which
Mhm.
holds, no one does anything about. I will introduce, co-sponsor, sponsor, whatever I need to do to pass a term limit amendment.
Okay. Sounds good. All right. Where can people find you?
FLAaron.com.
All right, and then I had that up on the screen a moment ago. I don't know if I can get that quickly here. Where was it? I'll put it back up on, but it's in the show notes, folks, so I don't have to put it on the screen. It's in the show notes. Go there, check them out. You're active on social media. Let's see what on social media we can find you at Aaron four, the number four, FL6, the number six. So that's how you can find him on Twitter. Are you on any other social media? Are you active, or just pretty much Twitter?
Facebook. You can find me on Facebook. I have a campaign page. I'm not the best on Facebook. I don't know.
I hear you. I hear you. On that, we can agree for sure. I'm not a big fan of Facebook. All right, sir. Well, it was a pleasure having you. I'm going to put you backstage. If you need to go, you can. If not, you can wait for me. We'll chit chat for a moment after the show,
Okay.
whatever you need to do. But I appreciate you joining the show today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate the opportunity.
Absolutely. All right. Oops, that's not what I wanted to do. How about that? Let me put him on mute. Let's see, mute. There we go. All right, folks. Thank you so much for joining me this morning. Hope you enjoyed the conversation with Aaron Baker. If you are in Florida's 6th district, then go ahead, check him out, see if he's the guy for you. Personally, for me, I'll just be straight honest. Anybody that is challenging Randy Fine will work for me. Literally anybody. I absolutely anybody that knows this, that watches the show, that I absolutely detest him. He's probably the one person that I absolutely dislike the most in Congress. So I will take literally anybody. But go ahead and check out Aaron. Again, his website is Aaron for the number four FL6, the number 6.com. So go check that out. Otherwise, I will see you guys tomorrow and we will have a great conversation. We're going to talk about the explosion of marijuana criticism from conservatives online tomorrow. I'm going to address a whole bunch of their arguments. So look forward to that. Buckle up, folks. It's going to be a lot of fun. Otherwise, I will see you guys tomorrow. Have a good one. Thank you for watching, and I hope you found this episode informative and inspiring. Be sure to catch me Monday through Friday, 7:30 a.m. for an informed discussion on politics and culture. Make sure that you're subscribed to my YouTube channel, or if you prefer my Rumble channel, you can go to youtube.libertydad.com or you can go to rumble.libertydad.com. While you are there, let me know how I'm doing by leaving me a comment. Remember, if you're a champion of liberty, your business is people and your product is liberty. I want you to have a great week. Catch you next time. But for now, I'm out.